played Peach. Katie Walker played Lexi. And Ian played Charlie, believe it or not. Can you see him? There he is. Yeah, are you really Charlie?
Yeah.
Hell of a makeup job, man. I was gonna say. Wow. All right, so, you know, Jordan, can I just kind of start asking you a couple of things, and if you guys are right to kind of pass the mic around there, okay? So, it's obvious you have a lot of passion for filmmaking. I've known you for a little while, and I've shown some of your stuff at showroom shorts before, trailers and things, and, you know, it's one of the things that we're, you know, so impressed by in you. And I just want to know a little bit more about what drives you. What is it that makes you want to tell films, tell stories, make films? How do you find your ideas? That kind of thing that you often see in magazines.
I'd say what drives me is trying to capture certain images and stuff and aesthetics. At the moment, I'd say I could change with like going for like narrative, you know, story and stuff. But yeah, just like trying to capture something that's not necessarily been seen before, always been seen before, but not in like the context of like this kind of film. I like genre blended films and stuff. So films that are like kind of out there, like Funny Games, stuff like that, Spring Breakers, which is just like aesthetic, you know, based. Yeah. But yeah, I really love Funny Games. It's a great film.
What is it that kind of makes you want to do this, though? You love the films. It's just a sheer love for it. That's great, but where do you find the stories, man?
I couldn't say. It comes from the ether. It comes from, you know. No, it's just for the narrative. I think it just starts off with like little placards. I get an idea of the ending. I feel like regardless of like the circumstances of the film, the ending's always really strong. So like obviously I'm dealing with low budget. If I had a bigger budget, maybe I'd be able to expand on that. But like I feel like all the edits in my features I've done so far have been really strong. So yeah, some of the idea with maybe I have other ideas throughout the film, and then I'll just patch them together. So I use placards. There's probably be like flashcards. You know, like if you're studying for exams and stuff. Write them on there. I have 70 of them. Then I've got a story. Yeah.
It is the kind of, you know, the index card style of making films and writing films is, you know, something that a lot of writers recommend. Now, there's a couple things that in the few talks that we've had and stuff, you've told me a few things that I've kind of like seized on. I wanted to ask you. You don't seem to have a lot of love for the short film form.
Yeah.
Now, I've you know, gone through my filmmaking career making shorts and, you know, work for aesthetic. I watch shorts all the time. Now, it's interesting that you don't seem to be that into it. So I want to know a little bit, like, why? How come you just want to make features? Why do you feel that way? Why do you kind of want to just sort of throw yourself into that rather than cutting your teeth in the way that sort of a lot of filmmakers do on shorts?
Not to like throw any shade towards like filmmakers in regards to shorts, but it's kind of like them types of films are for like filmmakers. Obviously this can like, so it's like shorts are made for filmmakers to see, right? You go to the film festivals and stuff, you're not going to get a general audience unless you're a super like cinephile. Right. So like the only famous shorts really you'll see from famous directors because they're, you know, they're up and coming. So trying to, it could be that, it could also be like, I'm not very good at telling like short form narrative, I don't think. I feel like I've got like a medium form narrative at the moment, but I need to push past that. So this is 53 minutes and stuff. Obviously they classify anything over 45 as a feature, but you know, most people aren't going to pay for that, you know, for 50 minutes and so I need to be pushing into like the 90 minutes, and yeah, I need to be pushing with like a bigger budget to be able to do that. But yeah, short films, it's more for like filmmakers, so
you're not really bothered about appeasing that audience?
Yeah, I'm saying this now, but then potentially I could do a short which would, you know, I could tag along with a script and stuff, so it's not that it's bad. When I do my shorts, because I have done shorts with university and stuff, it's more to test out ideas. So I did a short called Catch, and you can see some of the influences that have carried over from Catch to this. Yeah. And the same with like the vampire film, it was all based around Vane, which was a 3-minute short. So it's a micro short, and then that ended up being the feature of the vampire film.
We will talk about those a little bit more. So now you're surrounded by your cast here. So I'd like to ask you how you went about casting. How did you kind of go about finding your actors?
It's all over the place really. So Oddie plays Charlie. We've been working with him on like shorts and, you know, throughout university, and then yeah, just building up, and then wanting to do more stuff related to like acting. And then this was like the most challenging role. I didn't tell him everything at the beginning, and it's kind of like a gradual thing.
Yeah. I'm gonna ask you more about this actually, about how they didn't know. Yeah.
And then with I've been working with Stephen. He was an extra in Touch of Vengeance, but then after the screening of Touch of Vengeance, he came up to me and was like, "Oh, I really want to be involved in stuff." So this film wouldn't have been possible without Stephen. So like he was putting himself out there, yeah. And then Stephen told me about Katie, and then Katie was like, oh yeah, we had like one meeting. I must have been speaking a million miles per hour like I am now, and then I don't know.
Yeah,
how
the Q&A is a lot faster with you.
And then I approached acting groups previously, and then you were there with Daniel, and he was the lead in Catch, one of my shorts, and yeah, you just remind me of my grandma so much. So it was like the way you're speaking. Yeah, and the way to say that. Originally it was a grandma, but we changed it to an aunt. So but the way she speaks within the film and how I wrote the film, that's literally how my grandma speaks. It's not like anything like that. She's just really up. She's like happy and stuff. And yeah, so my grandma's called Nunu. So from Teletubbies, if anyone knows that.
That's incredibly cute.
Yeah.
Let's pass the mic around to some of our actors. I'd like to know, each of you really, what was it like working with Jordan? Tell us a little bit about, how he kind of got you prepared for your role and just, where you went with it. It'd be nice to just hear about what it was like to work with Jordan. Yeah. All right, Lexi first.
I mean, it was my first sort of thing, like actual film that I'd done, not a part of any sort of education like uni or anything. So, I mean, for me it was like a first set experience, but I think it was really good. It was really informative and fun, and Jordan was very on it with what he wanted, and if something wasn't right, he wouldn't just be like, oh yeah, like whatever. He'd be like, let's do it again, like let's do it as many times as we can until we get it right. And yeah, it was really fun, and it was a really great experience of like a first film for me, and I'd love to do more stuff.
I want to ask you more. I want to ask you more about your role in a minute, but yeah, Steve, let's talk about Peach. What it was like working with Jordan?
Yeah, I'll be nice this time.
Yeah.
Last time I was asked this question, I forgot the punchline, so I just sort of talked shit for a minute straight. So sorry about that. No, so when I first worked with Jordan was when I met him back in like 2018 or something like that. He shot me in the face within like 30 seconds of the film opening, and it was great. I think my one line then was "Hey Johnny," which was impossible to do without going "Hey Johnny," and he cut it from the film, so that was cool. But then when we got the chance to do like a feature film, it was a scary thing to do. We did a short together initially, but I weren't top form then because I've not done it before, But no, it's good. Like Katie said, he's very clear with what he wants, and the golden line is great. That's perfect. Let's do it again. And once you heard that 50 times for one take, you know you've got it at some point. You're very tired. It's 6 a.m. It's -1. It's cold. It's a really fun experience. We have a lot of fun. And Jordan resonates as kind of like, it's a bit wacky, but he loves what he's doing, and that kind of like that's shared to the rest of the cast, I think, and it breeds like a sort of a chilled out environment where you're not worried about not impressing him, because you've got that artistic freedom to do what you want, haven't you? As long as you do it right the first time. And fingers crossed he won't shoot you in the face. That's it.
Great, that's perfect. Let's do it again. Yeah, I'm gonna remember that. Yeah.
Well.
So yeah, same question. What was it like to work with Jordan? And also, I want to hear more about your hair.
Yeah. Well, it's been brilliant working with Jordan. I've been involved with him since he started uni, really. I met him at a boxing gym in Dronfield, and we sort of talked about shared interests, filmmaking, photography and stuff. And then when he started at uni, he'd asked me, can I help him out? And I said, of course, yeah. And he talked me into doing a little bit part on one of his shorts, and he's nurtured me on, I suppose. I'm Jordan's protege, maybe. But now he's given me confidence, and it's just improving me acting capability or whatever, which I had nil before I met Jordan, So yeah, good, and it's really a privilege to be working with him.
Auntie Jess.
Yeah, I went to auntie rather than grandma.
Yeah. It was originally written as a grandma, but we changed it because I was like,
Because you complained, I bet.
Yeah.
So I met Jordan because my husband did Touch of Vengeance with Jordan, and he was the lead in Catch, and mentioned to my husband that he wanted an old lady. My husband volunteered me.
Sort of ageist things going on now. We gotta stop talking about this.
But I'd never done any sort of film before, so I'd always done, I did amateur dramatics, so I was used to being on stage, but not in that. But actually, Jordan is really good at doing it again, but actually in a nice, supportive way. Because obviously, from somebody that's used to learning lines, doing it once and then that's it, it's very different when you do a film.
Yeah.
That you're not looking at the camera or you know.
Well, our first day was like really quick, wasn't it? It was like we had probably like half a day to film everything, but we filmed all of your scenes in like one. Oh no, it was 2 days. It was 2 days, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But that's fine.
I don't need a man
That's
to
okay,
She can project.
Yeah.
Well, it's back to you anyway. Yeah. So,
Okay.
I'd like to just sort of pass this over back to Katie for a second, if that's all right, and kind of keep with the cast for a little while. You said something interesting to me upstairs, and I just wanted to kind of touch base on it when we just, met literally the bar like an hour ago, whatever. And you said that, and I was like, my God, who does that with your character, just leaving him in the lurch like that? The two of you, God, horrible to him,
I know.
But you said they didn't tell me they were gonna do that. So you telling me you didn't read the whole script?
No, it
And did
was-
you keep this from them, Jordan? Is that how this works?
It was the end. I didn't know what.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I didn't know about the end of the film, what was going to happen to Alex, and it was a complete surprise when you told me, you mentioned it to me, and I was like, wow, I was like, that's insane. Like, I was not expecting it to take that turn at all. But yeah, I had no idea. I had no idea how it was going to end. And then I saw it and I was like,
Because do you think that if you knew that your actions as the character would lead to Alex's, demise, would you have changed the way that you were going to perform that? Is that why, Jordan, you held that back?
well, I mean, obviously Lexi, she's doing this, but she doesn't understand what's going to happen. She doesn't understand the consequences of what she's doing. She's just, doing what she's just going ahead with it, and she's leaving him behind, not understanding that it's gonna ruin some things. And so I think not knowing was helpful. I think it helped because obviously she didn't know that was gonna happen, and I didn't know.
This is what I'm interested in. Yeah. Now, can I ask the same question to you, Stephen, for Peach? Like, would you think that that might have altered or affected your performance if you knew that this was going to lead to Alex being buried alive?
I mean, I did, because you had enough paper to print the rest of my script. But from a character perspective, I think, like, Peach wouldn't really care. I mean, I get the idea he don't particularly like Alex, which is weird, because Aiden, lovely guy, but he's off, being too successful right now.
You can say about the original ending. What it's going to be anyway.
Yeah, so the original ending was...
It's always entertaining when I give you the microphone, I have to say.
There's another ending, apparently.
Well, the original ending which we filmed was when the credits are rolling, Lexi's got a voiceover and she's been ditched. So, like, yeah, Peach is meant to be like an awful character. Yeah.
Yeah, so like, I don't think he would really care. I think everything he does comes at the cost of someone else, and he's totally fine with that because it's all about number one. If I didn't know Alex was going to die, it's hard because it was about 3 years ago, right? So there's things I'd change about the performance now,
Right.
from a Stephen standpoint.
Okay.
But if I didn't know about Alex dying, I think I probably would have been more of a dick to him, to be honest. Because
More?
Yeah, because there was one point where I thought it needed like sort of a redemption arc, right, where the two characters would sort of make up and be a bit more friends, and it would make that betrayal sting a bit more. But I just felt it worked better because you could see that the two characters didn't like each other, and
Yeah.
if
There's
that
a lot
was
of jealousy, there's suspicion, all that.
and if that was turned up to 11, I think it just makes sense, and if there's ever a sequel plan,
Ooh.
it can be something to
The
stop.
return of
you know what I mean?
Lexi. Yeah, maybe. Could I ask you, because I know we got to kind of move a little bit, and I do want to show your trailer as well.
Yeah.
Just tell us a little bit about the budget of the film. You said many times you made it for £4,000. What did you choose to spend the small amount of money that you had on?
Majority probably went on props because I'm not sure if you noticed in the film, there's a lot of like rainbow imagery and stuff, so that was like a conscious choice. The film's meant to be split into two halves, so you've got the fantasy, which is up the way to the beach, and then like let's go to the balloon at some point, and then obviously it appears on the beach, obviously within the sand. So you've got the two halves, and then the other half is like, so it's switching genre. I see it as like a zigzag structure but in two halves, so two kind of short films put together in some way.
2-3 act structures,
yeah.
basically. Yeah, got it.
So yeah, mainly on that. You know, getting Aiden down and stuff. Yeah, a bit for Stephen, but obviously he could have given him a lot more. But, but yeah, but that's why it would have been impossible to make without Stephen, especially driving there as well. Yeah, so yeah, we drove down to the beach like 3 times, didn't we?
Where was that beach? I wanted to ask you about where the locations were.
What was it? Yeah, Grimsby, there you go, yeah. Grimsby Beach. It was actually, we're trying to get the fire on the beach, but we couldn't, so we had to do that in the back garden. So it's not on the beach because it was like there's some protected bird there. But we tried to do the counts, go for the counts on the stuff. But yeah, mainly Sheffield, a lot of Dronfield, and Peach Street.
Okay, thank you, Jordan. I wanted to ask you a little specific question about the look of the film actually now, just for a minute, and then we might have to kind of move on to next bits. But the colors in Nothing Goes. I really noticed watching it now on the big screen too. For the first time, it really kind of comes out a lot more. Really notice that you seem to theme your room sometimes with what's going on. So you've got like, you know, overarching colors when there are big walls, big sort of blank walls in the rooms. You've got green in the bedroom, pale bluish sort of white in the bathroom. You know, you've got some rooms where red is the primary glow, you know, primarily when something seems to be a little bit foreshadowed. What messages are you sending really in this theme when you're using colors like that?
The only time I wanted colors that would juxtapose each other and it wouldn't be the same. I just wanted stuff that was poppy, but the only specific time I really was conscious about making the decision for the colour was when Alex comes back from the robbery and he's in his living room, instead of red, he's paved in red. And then you've got Katie, who's paved in red as well, but then she comes into blue, she's playing the femme fatale. And then it's when, I call it the Alex baptised scene. So when he's in the water, he's having to baptise, he's cleansing himself of the robbery and stuff, but it doesn't necessarily work because it's not purely like white, but it's close to white, because it's like a light blue. But yeah, and then, yeah, that's probably the only thing about colour over that. I guess you could say the green with the femme fatale type stuff, because it's kind of like there's a bit of noir in there with Katie playing the femme fatale.
Yeah, well, I kind of noticed the green mostly when Peach first is about, he's in the bathroom and he first gets himself like in this situation, offers him the job.
Yeah, that's light blue.
That's
light blue. Yeah,
I meant to say green.
Yeah,
light blue. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that ties in with like the religious imagery that you see throughout the film as well. Like at the start, there's the cross above his head, which is kind of meant to be like foreshadowing. Like when you die, you have a gravestone above your head. So it's kind of like ending with that.
Okay, thank you. There's a question that might be able to extend to everybody here, but I'll ask you first. You said in my office the other day when we were just kind of transferring files over and getting it over to me that, since you shot this back in 2023, you probably would do things a little bit differently now.
Yeah.
What would you have done differently?
I think I could have made the intro a lot stronger. Maybe instead of it being like a note, I would have used like a landlord. Maybe they're getting kicked out. I would have set it in the heart of Sheffield, so it would have had that continuity throughout the film. Because you went to like rural England and then you go into Sheffield. But saying that was like my experience going to uni. I was like obviously not within Sheffield. I was going from Dronfield to Sheffield, and then I know they're like so close, not the same postcode and stuff, but there's still like a difference, in aesthetic. And then I'd make it longer. I'd show more Lex and Peach, and just I feel like I needed something stronger to show that there was something happening between them, other than it being quite subtle and through the dialogue. I feel like because it was a dialogue, some audience members just they missed it. So if it was a bit more like visual, like in my head, it could be like maybe they don't kiss. But maybe it's like, oh, maybe he has a cigarette and then he's blowing smoke in the mouth and stuff, and it's kind of like an implied kiss. I know it sounds stupid, but like if you see that on like screen, that would be like really cool, right?
It's not you would have made this a little bit harsher. It sounds like you would have made the film a little bit more raw.
Yeah, I still think there still needs that cut-off point between Lexi and Peach and stuff, but I don't know, just a bit more character development and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cast, I'm going to extend that question to you a little bit, even if it's a little bit unfair. Stephen, you've kind of already said that you would do something a little bit differently. You would have been more of a dick. Any other kind of comments about, would you folks in hindsight have done things a little bit differently now that you're a few years down the line?
I think in terms of acting itself, obviously everyone critiques themselves. I think because it's been a few years, I've done a few other things. I've done like workshops here and there. I think when I look back at it, I think, I could have done that differently. Like, I would have done that so much better now. And also, I think just the character herself, like the way Lexi is, I think I didn't hone into that enough. So I think doing it again, I'd really just like jump into it and become, you know, the horrible woman that is Lexi. So,
Because I gotta say, I don't see it coming. You know, I was even watching it the second time. I'm like, does she really go? Nah, she's not gonna. Here she goes. Go your town. Other opinions on this? You said, of course, Ian, that you've been, you know, Jordan's kind of set you on your journey. A little bit further down the line now, would you have done anything different?
I might have gone a bit easier on him, maybe. I don't know. But no, I don't think I could have done anything different on that one. Jordan had primed me a bit. He didn't tell me everything, and I had to think about the role. A little bit uncomfortable with playing such a deviant, I suppose. But no, I don't think I got enough space to do much different. Probably appeared a little bit more nicer and kinder
Really?
at the beginning, and then twisted it. But I couldn't. I wish I could have kept the hair. I mean, that would have been a bonus.
Anything for you? Would you?
I was only really a tiny little bit at the beginning, so
Yeah, but you're
I
here.
would like to do more.
Do more parts. Okay, Jordan, write her in. Some more stuff.
No, yeah, no. You know, if I went back, there should have been probably more of the aren't, just because I feel like obviously you get the cutbacks in, but maybe a bit more character development to the audience when they see the death scene. There's a bit more of like an emotional impact. But yeah, it's just because you're running a million miles per hour. We had 15 days to shoot it all, so.
15 days. Time, all right. Okay, let's take a little break just for a second. I'm going to give the audience a chance.
So like ideas. I don't want to give anything away, type thing, but yeah.
No spoilers, man.
Yeah.
But if you're thinking sci-fi, that sounds great. That was the one sci-fi short that I ever made was my favorite shoot. So, yeah.
Hopefully.
Oh, audience. Are there some questions that you might have lingering about for either Ian or Ian? For Jordan or for some of the cast?
Ian.
Yeah. All right.
So, what would you say is the overarching moral of the story, if there is one?
I was just trying to get that duality of karma. So it's just like karma, like what comes around goes around. The original title was meant to be what comes around goes around, but it's already taken. I wanted like what's the saying? Yeah, it's what comes around goes around. Yeah, that was it. Yeah. So I'd say the film is just, yeah, don't be naive, I guess, that you can say that. There's not really like, there's meant to be multiple layers to it, so it's kind of like, you could take it from the aesthetic point of view. You could either have it as, don't be too naive. The university experience, like you do universities, it's fantasy, then you come out of it and reality hits in some ways. You know, some people that come out of university don't necessarily go with the grade that they've got, so you have this vision when you're in university that kind of goes away. So obviously I was to do my masters, and it's kind of like, oh, am I going to be able to pursue filmmaking past this? And it's kind of like, I guess that's like, you could say, is the narrative that was there. Not necessarily I was going out to seek that. I was going out to do a film that was like, switching genres halfway through.
Yeah.
But you could see that this is a university film. I was in university. I was trying to capture all these moments when you're in university. You go on the train, you go on the bus, you go into these locations within Sheffield. If you're like at Sheffield Hallam, you know, University of Sheffield.
I think the moral is don't accept work that your girlfriend finds you.
Yeah.
I'm going to take that with me. Hey, that's right. Got it. Yes, you do. Because I'm walking up to you.
I really enjoyed the film, but on the same point as the guy there.
So you've basically done a film where the good guy gets buried in a box, pissed on, and asphyxiates to death, I assume. I like that kind of film. A lot of people may be a bit dissatisfied. It's really Edgar Allan Poe. The darkest, most bleak thing I can think of, I mean, is something like The Road. And even that has the hint of redemption at the end of it. What made you choose to say absolutely zero redemption? The guy gets pissed on and buried and dies.
I like this because I was going to ask you, why did the bad guys win? Basically, why do the bad guys win? Yeah, so here we go.
Because this is, sometimes you're not the main character of like a story, if that makes any sense. This is like a side character story. Something that you'd in the film, you might have a little minute when they're being buried and it goes back to the main character, which would be Lexi and Peach. But no, we're going to focus on Alex, and it really doesn't break away from Alex throughout the whole film. I feel like the only time it does is when we see the initiating argument or whatever, the inciting incident between Peach and Lexi, but Alex is still there. So the film, I was like, if it's going to be low budget, I can't tell all these stories, I can tell one really strong, then I'll just focus on Alex. And I thought, yeah, potentially most people may never have seen this before. I was trying to trick the audience, so the people that are going to watch it are going to be people in like, younger audience and stuff between the ages of like 18 and let's say 26, 27, and it's kind of like I want to trick the audience. They're not going to expect this. They think it's going to be like a Skins type film, and they might get all this aesthetic which they like, but then all of a sudden it just completely switches. So. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, right here.
Here's Martin. Oh no. No.
What does the title mean? Because obviously it's called Nothing Goes, but usually when you say something like that, it's like a preposition for something like nothing goes right or nothing goes wrong. Like, what does it mean? Because I'm quite a big fan of like ambiguous titles. Like, I like the titles to not reveal too much. What does it mean? Yeah.
That's a cool question. Yeah. No, yeah. I couldn't have Nothing Goes Right because it was already taken, and it's kind of like. It's going to sound stupid and boring, but like SEO, search engine optimization. I want my film to like pop up when you type it in, so I'm not competing against other films. So it's daft, but it's kind of like that. Nothing goes. It's meant to be Nothing Goes Right. But like I would have wanted What Comes Around Goes Around, but that's already like a famous musical or something. So.
Okay, I'll come to you in the front in a sec. Oh, this is going to be a long. Can somebody pass that mic down there? I'm not going to disturb you all.
Thank you. From one relatively new dad to another, how has the experience of having a kid affected your ideas?
I don't know. I guess it's hard to say. I don't know how it's affected my ideas. I feel like all my ideas have been like running since I was a teenager, so like I've had these endings in mind which are like strong. But I guess I wouldn't show my daughter this until like she's 18. So even though like I had an older brother, so I was exposed to like more like horror films when I was younger and stuff. But yeah, it's I guess it's just I guess I've got to be careful what I show younger audiences. I don't know. Yeah, sorry if that doesn't answer the question.
Not really.
Yeah.
This is great though. The audience is asking questions I had written down that I didn't have time for.
Really.
So this is perfect. It was you, yes.
Hello, Izzy.
I don't know if you know this, and this is kind of for Stephen and Katie as well. What happens to Peaches and Lexi? Where do they go? Why did they?
What do Peach and Lexi think?
What do you think?
Peach and Lexi.
Where did you imagine
Not
that
you
they left?
necessarily. No, yeah, good question.
Well,
What happens
is,
after the end of the story?
Sequel.
Oh, no, I think that explains it.
All right.
I think that's good enough.
Yeah, I don't, you could write it as like, it could be a Bonnie and Clyde. Is Bonnie and Clyde? Yeah. Sorry, I always say Bonnie and Clyde. Yeah, maybe like that. Or
Thelma and Louise.
Yeah, but
Sorry, it's the hair.
in my head it was like Lexi gets like ditched and then Peach runs off.
Ooh.
So,
Yeah, the questions, folks. Okay, all right. Well, one new one up here.
oh god.
Not really nervous, mate.
Right.
Okay, so, is it Steve, yeah? Stephen?
Yeah.
How many fags did you smoke during that, mate? It seemed like a lot, my friend.
Right, because it would be like first like feature, right? We'd done a short, and I wanted to wow the population, right? And I once read about 10 years ago that Brad Pitt was always doing something on screen, and a good actor's always doing something on screen, and he likes to eat. If you watch any film of his, he's just yamming on sandwiches and what have you. So I thought I'll do that, but with cigarettes. Also, Jordan just requested, can you have a cigarette in this one? I was like, yeah, of course, mate. No excuse for me to. Oh yeah, so I have since quit cigarettes, and this film was probably because of it. But when I ran out of actual cigarettes, he gave me these cool prop cigarettes, which were horrific. They were cherry flavored, apart from they weren't. They just dug a bit of dirt out of the ground, probably the same one they buried Aiden with, and whacked it in a cigarette.
Nice one.
The actual number is probably around. It's about 20 a day, I reckon, something like that.
Not bad.
It's a good time, yeah. It's good.
Ian, how long was makeup?
One more question for Ian.
Pardon?
How long was makeup?
It's about 4 hours, wasn't it? Yeah, but we had some trial runs as well, I had to get my head measured up and done. What? Oh yeah, the tattoos, we had to put the tattoos on the night before, and I had to have some cling film around them to stop all that coming off, but it's about 4 hours for that. Yeah.
Was the beard yours or was it?
Pardon?
Beard.
Yours or was that
Yeah, no, that was mine, real. It's about 3 months. I've been trekking in Nepal in October and came back. I'd already had two weeks growth, and Jordan says, "Don't shave it, you know, please. I want you to grow with your real beard." So that, yeah, about 3.5 months growth, and it was all right after the itching, but yeah, I don't know if I'll ever grow another beard that long anyway.
What about dreads?
Dreads, miss them. Shouldn't mind dreads.
Thank you guys.
Okay, last question.
It's a pretty like generic, like simple question, because obviously, as like we're all like some of us are going to be filmmakers. How long, for reference, did it take you from pre-production to like completing it? How long did it take you to like create the film?
This is kind of technically my most efficient film. So I wrote it in the previous year. Well, actually about 6 months. So I came up with the idea, and then 6 months of pre-production before production, 15 days of shooting, and then I'd say 6 months of post-production. But yeah, I wrote the film in maybe within probably about 33 days. I had it on my board. I think it's on my story somewhere on, you know, because I put everything on this. Yeah. And then production, 15 days. That was really clean. It was like there was no hiccups or anything, which I was fortunate for. Even though we were shooting in January, so the weather was all over the place. Some days it was freezing, some days it was like foggy, some days it was raining. So we have all types of weather. That's why I've got a rainbow and got really lucky to actually have that as like CGI rainbow or something. And then post-production, yeah, that was just the only thing that took along with post-production was sound, music, and stuff. I worked with 2 different musicians, so to reflect the film having 2 narratives, we had 2 different musicians. One making a more cinematic soundtrack and stuff, and then Tankin, who did the like drum and bass and jungle type beat and music. So it was kind of like trying to clash with them 2 things. So yeah.
All right. Folks, did you guys have a good time? Everybody have a good time? Was it fun? Yeah? So we thank Jordan.